Hey home bakers, it's Jack here at bakewithjack.co.uk, bringing you your weekly bread making tip every single Thursday. And if you want to make sourdough without throwing anything in the bin, this tip is for you. Let's do it. Hey home bakers, welcome back. It's Thursday and that means it's bread tip day. Listen, thank you very much for coming here every single week. So cool to see you, so cool to see people commenting and underneath, and so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing if that's okay with you. Okay, so sourdough is a huge topic. Now I'm going to delve into it as much as my expertise will allow me to. I've already done a couple of videos on it already, but this week I wanted to do something about making sourdough with no waste, without throwing anything away, no discard, because that's what put me off making sourdough for a long time. Tons of recipes told me throw away 50% of your starter and feed it with this, or you know, stuff like that, and it really annoyed me how to throw stuff away in the bin the whole time, and so I never even bothered attempting it because that already annoyed me. The thought of it already annoyed me without actually doing it, so I didn't bother for a long time. And yet another barrier I had to making sourdough was all these recipes that say discard X amount of your starter, but don't worry, you can use it up in crackers or waffles or pancakes or this and that and the other. And I was like, okay, brilliant. So now I've got to make a sourdough loaf, plus I've got to make up a load of all this other stuff, and I've got to learn how to do all that, so I'm not wasting any of my starter. Massive barrier. I'm a busy boy and I just want a loaf of bread that I can eat. Straight up, simple as that. And so I invented the Scrapings Method. Actually, I thought I invented it, and then I put it out on Facebook saying, hey, does anybody make bread like this? And they were like, yeah, tons of us do. And I'll write up the recipe and stick it on my website for you, because I know you're all gagging for a sourdough recipe, so I'll stick it up on my website for you. Make it, let me know how you get on. Okay, enough messing about. This is what the method is, okay? This is what I keep in my fridge, okay? I keep this in my fridge. It's basically a dirty pot. We all make a sourdough starter. We've all made a sourdough starter. If you have already, I did a video about how to make a sourdough starter, but you don't need to keep a lot of your sourdough starter to be able to make nice bread. This is my sourdough starter pot. I've just made a loaf of sourdough, and this is what I've got left. In here is probably around about 20 grams, around about a heavy tablespoon or so, 25 grams, I don't know. It's just essentially what is left inside of the pot. It's just the scrapings, hence the name, the Scrapings Method. I'll keep this dirty pot inside of the fridge until next week, when I make another sourdough loaf. And then next week, when I want to make a loaf of sourdough the following day, the day before I want to make it, I will feed this. Let's say, for argument's sake, I need 150 grams of sourdough starter in my pot to use for a loaf of bread. I'll put 75 grams of wholemeal rye flour into my wholemeal rye starter, 75 grams of water into here and mix it up. That's 150 in total, plus the scrapings. I'll mix it up, pop my elastic band where it needs to be, we spoke about that before, and let it puff up in volume overnight, ready for my bake tomorrow. Then, when I'm ready to make my dough, I'll take out 150 grams of starter. You always lose a little bit in the air. I don't know why, it's science. 150 grams of starter will come out of my pot into my bowl. I'll add water, flour, salt, and make the most unbelievable sourdough loaf of bread you've ever seen. Probably. Then all I've got left in my pot is this again. We're back to square one again. Just this again left in my pot for next time. Pop the lid back on, pop it in the fridge for a week, and do the same thing next week. Nothing left over, nothing to throw away, just a dirty pot. Now you might say to me, hold on, don't I need to feed my starter every day or twice a week to keep it excited and alive? The answer to that question is no. Not really. This is a wholemeal rye starter, and wholemeal rye starters I find a little bit more robust than anything else. I'll leave it in there for a week and make bread the following week, and therefore my refresh stage, if you're into all that stuff, is essentially the same as my feeding stage or my leaven stage. We'll talk about this at a later date as well, but it's just one stage. Feed it, use it. Feed it, use it, feed it, use it. Right? The more often you need to use it, the more often you need to feed it, right? Because you only got to feed it when you're making the bread. You want to make 2 loaves in a week, that's fine. You want to make 1 loaf every 2 weeks, and this is where the game changes. If you neglect your starter in the fridge for a while, let's say for example 2 weeks, or maybe even 3 weeks, don't worry too much. It ain't gonna die. I do it all the time. In fact, legends have it, the starters never die. And whether that's the case or not, I've not experimented that much to find out whether a starter ever actually dies or not, but I've never had one die. So the little bit of mess that we keep inside of the pot will stay there for 2 weeks. For example, I might neglect it for 3. Who knows? You know, I'm a busy person. I've got stuff to do. I've got other things to bake. Maybe I'll leave it in the fridge for 3 weeks. The longer that you leave it in the fridge, the more sleepier it's going to become. It's going to get sleepy and tired in there. But don't worry. The thing to do next is then when you want to make a loaf of bread, perhaps give it 2 feeds before you make the bread, because you've got to get it super excited again from that sleepy stage. There's loads of ways to make sourdough bread, more complicated ways and stuff like this, and there's loads of different techniques you can put in, which is great, and we'll touch on those at a later date. But this is the sourdough scrapings method that works for me. I haven't got to throw anything away. I haven't got to learn to make waffles. It's cool. Let's just keep it simple. Straight up sourdough loaf with nothing to throw away. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me here today and every single week. If you haven't clicked subscribe already, please do click subscribe. It's just a small thing that you can do, but it means a big thing for me. Did that even make sense? Who even knows? Listen, I look forward to seeing you next week. Head over to my website. I'll put a link underneath if you're not already there for the sourdough bread recipe using the scraping technique, and you know, let me know how it goes. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, tag me into stuff or whatever, however you do things. I'm there everywhere at Bake with Jack. Cool. See you later. See you next week.